All right, time for the queen. Jasmine Crockett. I don't know what this is, but I wanted to watch some Jasmine Crockett because I haven't watched any Jasmine Crockett videos in a little bit, and I felt like it was necessary. So we're bringing Jasmine Crockett back into the fold and letting her speak. Hopefully she calls somebody a Governor Hot Wheels or something like that, because I really need that in my life right now. Come on, bring the smoke, Jasmine. Bring the smoke.
Really quickly. First of all, it's too cold in this building. So, yes, excuse me. I know I look tacky, but this is my jacket because I'm about to head out for a second to do votes. But I wanted to make sure that I told y'all what just happened. So I've been in oversight forever today, but now we are in our markup, and it is in judiciary. And let me tell y'all what they just voted for. I want y'all to take a guess. Okay.
Later,
y'all probably
TOG.
not going to guess it because it don't make sense. But if you think of the most ridiculous thing that they could do, okay, I know that that's really hard too because everything that they do is quite reasonable.
I was going to say, how the fuck am I supposed to do that? I just talked about this is the political singularity for me. Every time I think, I'm like, that's probably about as dumb as this is going to get. Like, there can't really be too much further for us to go from here. Like, we are literally at the point where we have the dumbest things in American history. And we have a long history of doing dumb things. And then the next day I wake up and I'm like, oh, they did it again. They did it again.
Ridiculous, but literally, they just voted. They being the other ones, not us, because we were all on the right side of history. They just voted to give Trump the ability, legally, to give him the ability to deport
I hope everything's okay.
That is what they voted for. A bunch of elected U.S. representatives. That is how they voted. Am I telling a lie, Eric, or no?
No, I got my salad here. Mouthful. No. I'm stunned.
I'm not. But I'm glad that you... Oh, okay.
Hold on, one more time. Hold on.
Ability to deport U.S. citizens. That is what they voted for. A bunch of elected U.S. representatives. That is how they voted. Am I telling a lie, Eric, or no?
No, I got my salad here. Mouthful.
Oh, no.
I'm stunned.
What? Anti-furry bill is a good guess.
I'm glad that you... Oh, okay. Eric been here longer than me, but like...
So what we said was, we even said, you know what? Many of us will not offer any more amendments tonight. We won't vote for the overall bill. But if you agree to this... We'll drop any other amendments. We'll take the win that this would be in the bill, that you would agree U.S. citizens can't be deported. They voted to allow Donald Trump to deport U.S. citizens. And they did it during the week that we learned that a 4-year-old little girl fighting cancer, a U.S. citizen, has been deported. Separated from her U.S. citizen father and her cancer treatment. So, yeah, it's kind of shocking.
Well, he's shocked. Y'all, listen now. I came in with nothing but fools. So he been here longer, so maybe... He still has a little bit of shock in his life, but I don't personally, because the fact is we used to live in a world in which where we saw the news about that baby that got deported, the baby with cancer, because supposedly he the man that's all about the children with cancer, right? Like, that's why.
Oh, thank you for the $10, Troy. Thank you for the $10. Positive vibes to Gnome Domed, 100%, man. Thank you for the $10, and thank you for the well wishes, too. Gnome, best of, man. Like, I don't know what's going on over there, but I hope it turns out well for you. Like I said, you can send me a Discord message or something. We talk about it. Hey, what up, Sean? How's it going? Thank you for the $10, Troy. And yeah, positive vibes, man. Positive vibes.
Why he made sure one of his guests was at the State of the Union was a child with cancer. So surely, even though they're cutting cancer funding, but like it is a U.S. citizen. Like there honestly isn't even this real thing of like deporting a U.S. citizen. As far as I'm concerned, you randomly kidnapping folk and you throwing them out of the country against their civil rights, against their constitutional rights. And frankly, how would they feel if some other country decided that they were going to just start throwing people randomly in our country? Like that is absolutely insane. Dude, so yes,
that would be fucking hilarious.
Say
still
is y'all need to get these fools out of here. But Deborah is so much nicer about how she says things. She
she's bringing in the whole group.
She's one of them real good, nice lawyers. Okay, listen, I can only imagine how Deborah was in the courtroom, honey. But Deborah also sits on judiciary. So tell us, what are your thoughts? How do you explain that this is what they decided to do?
They're mean, they're heartless, and they're cruel. And they do not care about anybody except themselves. But if you're going to be able to deport U.S. citizens, then they're coming for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So again, like all those people that are saying that they have some sort of
not a good
buyer's
idea.
remorse about their votes because they never thought that this was going to impact them and that kind of stuff or whatever. Here's the reality. When we go out and make votes, instead of going out and deciding that you're going to vote for the person that is going to be quote unquote perfect, what you need to be doing is looking for somebody that at least has some common decency. Because ultimately, when it comes down to it, I can tell you, if it was somebody else that was in office other than him as the president of the United States, maybe we would have had a different result. But they are so afraid. They are afraid to do what is right. Again, I keep trying to tell people, this isn't about partisanship. This is about right versus wrong.
Afraid of Trump.
Now listen, y'all know this fighter. She stays on the front lines, at all times. But no, tell us, because actually this was your amendment.
It was my amendment.
So this is the author of the amendment. And we all thought it was common sense, but as we are learning, common sense ain't so common.
Yeah. No, look, here's the thing. This amendment was not introduced because it's theoretical. No. It is actually happening that U.S. citizens are being deported. Not just one, not just two, multiple U.S. citizens are being detained and deported by ICE. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I introduced into the record the document, the policy document, the law that ICE cannot detain and deport U.S. citizens. Yeah. That's actually the law.
That should be,
it's
that should
illegal
be fine.
what they're doing.
That should be understandable.
Ted Lieu, our colleague, said, it's batshit crazy that you got to introduce this amendment. He said that on the record. And I said, you know what? It is batshit crazy. But the reason I have to do this
is because they don't follow the law.
Fucking out of control.
And then I asked the Republicans on the other side, you were elected by U.S. citizens, by constituents.
Right.
And you are now saying, if you vote no on this amendment, you are saying that you're not going to stand up for the constituents, the U.S. citizens
that you work for,
that sent you here.
Right.
And it was just stunning.
The ones that pay your check.
Now, I did notice that some of them just didn't come to the vote because they didn't want to be on the record. They didn't want to vote.
Some of them skipped out on the vote,
They skipped out on the vote. So you should check the record. And if you have a Republican that represents you wherever you are, you should call them up and say, do you support
Here come the
Trump's
town halls again.
ability to use ICE illegally to detain and deport U.S. citizens? Because if you don't, you should be speaking out right now. And if you do, we are in a whole hell of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm already at the point that we are in a whole hell of a lot of trouble, to be perfectly honest. And the other thing that Pramila is too nice
she ain't
to say
wrong.
is when you looked across that aisle, for those that sit on judiciary that decided to take this vote, the reason that they can sit there and take this vote and not even blink is because so many of them sit in privilege. When I look across that aisle, I don't know. I think we have one person that may have a little bit of melanin. For the most part, they don't. And so what we know is that there's so much racial profiling that is taking place. There are certain people that maybe because they have an accent, you want to just say, oh, well, that can't be a U.S. citizen.
No, Trump said it. And I'll be the first person to say it every time. Like, if you want to say that somebody is racist, you should have proof to show that they are. Trump, in that interview, said they deserve to be deported. Just look at them. They're brown people with tattoos. I know tons of brown people with tattoos. I know tons of white people with tattoos. I know tons of black people with tattoos. Like, being brown and having tattoos does not make you a bad person, nor does it make you deportable. Saying the words, just look at them, they're bad people, that's not acceptable. And for the fucking longest time, we all agreed, for the most part, that we shouldn't be deporting American citizens. There was at least a line drawn there. But if you listen to the President of the United States say, how do I know that those people deserve to be deported? Because the reporter, his question was, if they've never had due process, how do we know? How do we know that they should be deported? How do we know that they're criminals? And Trump's answer to that was, just look at them. They deserve to be deported. That's racism. And it's fucked up. It's also saying people with tattoos are fucking terrible people. That's also fucked up. Like, you don't have to have tattoos to agree with that. You don't have to be brown to believe or to agree with that. You can just be a common sense, logical human being and say that just looking at any single person isn't a way to determine whether or not they are a criminal or not. Due process exists for a reason, and I thought you all fucking grew up with the idea that you're not supposed to judge a book by a cover. But apparently not.
Apparently that is not true. There are certain people, because of the
thank you for the $5, fan. Thank you for the $5. I'm still waiting for my dog and cat themed Haitian barbecue fundraiser for the Democratic Party. You have to show how stupid MAGA is to believe that. Dude, you ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. Thank you for the $5 and
complexion that they have. That is who is being targeted. So you know what? They are not concerned because they know the quote unquote types
orange people.
of U.S. citizens that are going
Welcome
to be
to the chat, all
directly
right?
impacted by this. Now, I got this legend, and I don't know if he want to say anything. He over here
Marsha.
trying to eat. But what you got to say? For
Exactly,
the
Marsha.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, he eating. He say no.
I'm ready.
I might. Okay. New York in the building.
We in New York understand, most of us, constitutional law. We understand constitutional rights, and that's why we only have 5 Republicans.
New York, that's 5 too many, y'all. It's 5 too many, New York.
A few of whom we'll probably defeat, maybe all of them next year.
And to our fearless leader. I feel like I've been with him my whole congressional career. That's because I have, actually. What do you have to
Like,
say?
how can you hate
First of
Jasmine
all,
Crockett?
hello to all the friends of Jasmine Crockett out there. She's doing a fantastic job for everybody. Look, the first 2 votes have got to be read together. The first one, we said, okay.
Like, look at the difference between somebody like MTG and Jasmine Crockett. How can you look at, like, the insanity of somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene and then look at somebody like Jasmine Crockett and be like, I'm on the Neanderthal side? Like, I wanna buddy up with the fucking caveman from the fucking Geico commercials. Who in their right mind would look at Marjorie Taylor Greene and the shit that she says and the things that she does, the way she licks Trump's asshole and he just walks right past her without even acknowledging her? Like, she genuinely talked about Jewish space lasers. She genuinely talked about a weather machine for the fucking Democrats to be used to create hurricanes. We've watched the video of Marjorie Taylor Greene agreeing that Ruth Bader Ginsburg might have been a clone or a skin suit. How do you look at somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene and the shit that she has said and done, and then look at somebody like Jasmine Crockett and the things that she says and she does and go, I want to be on Marjorie Taylor Greene's side? How do we do that? What is wrong with our fucking society?
Nobody should be deported from the country without due process. They refuse.
Where is due process found?
Due process is found in the 5th Amendment of the
I think he doesn't wear the
Constitution.
do-rag anymore because
And
he's
And what
got...
does due process mean? It means like
he's,
before
past
they
the,
deprive you
cancer
of your
treatment.
life, your liberty, or your property, you get to hear what the
Impeach you.
charges
Get
are against
this
you.
gazpacho
You get to put
police.
on your evidence, as
Yes.
Jasmine Crockett has done as a lawyer and as a member of Congress. There's got to be some structure to it, so it's fair, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be a neutral fact finder,
Right.
right? Who decides? All right, that's all we're saying.
And hopefully prevents these mistakes.
So before you get sent out of the country,
Right.
there's got to be due process. There's got to be
Right.
a fair hearing,
Right.
And our colleagues refuse to vote for that,
Yes.
despite the fact that the Supreme Court just said in a
Dude, all it is due process. That's it. And Trump can say, oh, well, how would we be able to do 21 million trials? You're not at a 21 million point, and you never will be unless you start actually deporting American citizens. That's the only way he's getting to 21 million. You're never going to have 21 million trials. But let's say, hey, legit, we're not going to be able to get through all these trials. Put more dudes on the bench. Get more people. Take the money that you're using for the military. Use that money instead to put more dudes on the bench. Let's move more judges over into immigration. Let's have them be able to do more court cases to determine whether or not these people should be or should not be citizens of the United States, whether or not they're productive or not productive, whether they're criminals or not criminals, and then we can start having a conversation. But just determining that people should be deported without any due process means I could be deported. You could be deported. Anybody in MAGA could be deported without anybody except for hopefully your fucking family or your friends speaking out and saying, whoa, this is bad. Hey, this shouldn't be happening. You literally are going to have to depend on your small circle of friends and family to bring to light to the entire nation that you've been deported if you hope to get any justice at all. Remember, we continue to talk about Kilmar, but there was 200 and some odd other people that were deported on those same planes. We know one other of them, a barber. How many of those people? They said that over 50% of those people didn't have criminal records. How many of those people haven't had the luck to have friends and family speak out and get the attention of the nation that are now sitting in CCOT with a bunch of fucking actual murderers? Actual murderers. If you think in any way, shape, or form that it's acceptable for people to be removed from this country without due process, you are not an American. You do not believe in American values. You are not a patriot. You are just a person that hates immigrants. You are full of fear. You are full of hatred. You are full of anger. And most of it is misdirected. All of it is misdirected. But most of it is coming from the wrong place. You're mad at the wrong fucking people. You're mad at immigrants that are here working, contributing to Social Security that they'll never fucking touch, trying to have a good life, trying to lay low, trying not to get in trouble. Meanwhile, you're supporting billionaires that literally have a game fixed to keep you down below them, producing the fucking robots that they're going to be using to take your job. That's how fucking stupid you are. If you think that people should be removed from the country without due process and you think it will never come to your front door, please say no to building those robots. Please speak out and say, I don't like this or I don't like that. You're going to find out. It ain't just about them. You ain't their friend either.
9-0 decision that there's got to be. And that includes everybody on that Supreme Court. That's pretty incredible that all 9 of them would actually say, yeah, we agree. There's got to be due process.
And the last time I checked, the Constitution, that's supposed to be the highest
Good job,
law
fan.
that we have in the land. That's what I thought.
Supreme law of the
That's
land.
what I thought.
Not Donald
It's
Trump.
constitutional professor, yeah.
So the first one says, okay, we said you can't deport people without due process. The Republicans said no. The second one, Ms. Jaibal's amendment, she said, well, you can't deport or detain U.S. citizens if you're ICE, right? That's not your job.
Right.
I thought that was a slam dunk. Okay, they're not.
That's a no-brainer.
They voted against that. They voted it down. You put those two together, and they seem to be indifferent if ICE is actually detaining and deporting U.S. citizens. And guess what? That's not hypothetical. That happened last week, where there were U.S. citizen kids who were sent outside of the country. So we're entering a brave new world here with all of their Orwellian,
brave new world,
Kafka-esque stuff. And we're just getting started, though, because we're going to now pin them down on everything. We're going to have amendments on everything to see where they really stand on the Constitution.
Yeah. So you just heard it directly from Jamie Raskin. He is trying to teach these people some constitutional law, y'all. They ain't trying to listen. They act like there's only one amendment in the Constitution, the second, and they read that one wrong. Listen, if you care about this country, if you care about the Constitution, if you care about anything, then you will go and tell somebody what we have just educated you on. I got Becca Ballant. Listen, I'm trying to let her finish. But here's the deal. It is so frustrating because we could see the writing on the walls as we went out and we tried to educate people about what it was that they were up to. If they have it their way, this country would only be full of Elon Musk and Trump and they other billionaire friends and whoever is willing to work for them for little to nothing and have no.
Dude, wasn't it Lutnick the other day that said, like, no, we're providing a good life for Americans. You're going to work in the factories. Your children are going to work in the factories. Their children are going to work in the factories. Like, they're just straight up fucking telling you, man. They're telling you what they're going to do to you, and you're supporting that. That's fucking wild. It's insane. They don't support unions. If you expect to get paid at Frito-Lay in the factory without a union, you ain't going to. If you expect to get paid in any corporate atmosphere where there is no regulation, where monopolies are allowed, where price fixing is allowed, because this is what we're talking about, where wages are discussed freely amongst these people, you aren't going to have a good life. When they talk about we're going to enter a new golden age, once again they're saying the quiet part out loud. They're saying we are going to do really well, and guess what? There'll be plenty of jobs for you to have. But the part that they're not saying out loud is that those jobs aren't going to be good jobs. When in history has billionaires, corporation, ultra wealthy people ever said, we're going to take care of the middle class? When? The only time that they have ever talked about, been forced to take care of the middle class was under Teddy Roosevelt when he taxed the shit out of their ass. And at that point, we had the strongest middle class in America in its history. The way that you don't beg billionaires, you don't beg corporations to do the right thing. They will never do it. You force them to do it, or your ass is grass. You ain't going to get no help from them. You ain't going to get no health care from them. You ain't going to get no time off from them. Stop turning over your ability to be the person who's actually in control of your own future and your own life to people who don't even know you exist, don't care about you, don't like you. And if you couldn't build their fucking robots for them, they would literally celebrate your fucking death because you're sucking up resources that they wish that they could hoard. It's not fucking rocket science, man. Scott, we've already had this conversation about unions. There's good unions and there's bad unions. It's all dependent on who the person in charge is. Trade unions are socialism, and that's why they use the red scare to demonize socialism and trade unions. Yeah, I was just watching this. This video. I think it was Andrew Callahan talking to a Republican at a Bernie Sanders rally, and he was saying, he's like, no, socialism is one step away from communism. Now that's not wrong because if you believe in what Marx wrote, it was like late stage capitalism turns to socialism to communism, but it doesn't need to be that way. The reason that you have communism, the reason you end up in communism is because the wealth gap grows so far apart that your everyday person, your middle class, your lower middle class, your impoverished people feel like they don't have any hope. Like they can't have any faith in the system. And so instead they grow violent, and then they pull the aristocracy, the bourgeoisie out into the streets and they take action, right? The way that you keep that from happening, the balance that Aristotle talked about, was that you don't allow these ultra wealthy people to have the powers that they have within our governmental system. That's why Citizens United needs to be overturned. That's why these super PACs need to be gotten rid of. That's why dark money has to be gotten rid of. That's why donations need to be capped and there actually be some type of real legit boundaries be put on these rich people. Because your voice should count just as much as the guy with $10 billion. I know that that's fucking, for some people, they're like, fuck that, he's successful. Most billionaires didn't make their own money. They inherited it. This myth that these guys work 100 times harder than you, that they're smarter than you, that they're just savvier than you are. None of that is fucking true. And thanks to the fucking internet, we can see it now. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I could understand why you might think these people are actually smarter. I could understand why you think that they might have been harder workers, that they're more savvy. I get that. You have a myth. But now, here, in this day and age where you can literally watch Elon Musk get on stage and act like a fucking buffoon, you still believe that dude's a genius? You still believe that dude's smarter than you are? And maybe he is. Maybe he is smarter than you, but he ain't smarter than fucking me, and I'm from the fucking trailer park. Like, you don't want communism? Because I don't either. Looks good on paper. Never really works out because that power vacuum gets sucked up by more people that shouldn't have authority. You don't want communism? Then you gotta close that wealth gap. You've got to provide social safety nets. And you know how you do that? With socialism. It doesn't need to be the most abject 100% socialism. You do it with taking parts of socialism, just like we have in this current government. Well, not this current government, but the one that we had 100 days ago. We have police officers, we have fire departments, we have health care, we have Social Security. We have so many things in our society that are parts of socialism that are good. And I'm sure there's plenty of places that you can point to socialism and you could say, but wouldn't that be bad? And I probably agree with you. There's parts of communism that you would say, but isn't that good? And I'd probably agree with you. If you want to talk about capitalism and you just want to talk about, well, what keeps a nation as the number one economy in the world? What does that? And you want to point towards capitalism? I'll probably agree with you. But smart people don't allow themselves to get stuck in a rut and say to themselves, the only way that something will work is if we use this one very specific idea. Instead, smart people say, let's take the idea with the most pros, the least cons. The most pros with the least cons. And then let's take piecemeal things from these other things that seem like good ideas as well, that work well with that idea. And socialism is a part of it. Socialism doesn't have to lead to communism, but if you have a huge wealth gap between Elon Musk and the everyday people and they start starving, guess what happens? Elon Musk gets drug out in the street. That's the cycle that continues to happen. When communism took over in Russia, when communism took over in China, and those people got drug out in the street and they got their lives ended. Do you think that those people that did that shit were happy? Do you think that they felt like they were well taken care of by their government? Do you think that they were, they're like, we just had a bad election. We lost this time. No, those people were at their fucking breaking points. And America is quickly getting to that. Because certain people, just average ass Americans, blue collar people, refuse to wake up to the fact that all they really wanted was to make the liberals cry. They just wanted to see the left sad because the left made them sad when they elected a black man. When Barack Obama was elected, the right got so fucking triggered, they have never recovered from it, and they are willing to cut their own nose off to spite their face. One day you gotta wake up and realize that. One day you gotta wake up and realize, like, you know what? I was pretty mad. I wanted revenge. I wanted to see the left suffer. But now I'm looking around at the people that I love, the people that I usually agree with, and they're sad, and they don't have no food, and they don't have no social safety nets, and they don't have no health care. Maybe it's time that we find some common ground and tell these billionaires that enough is enough. Thank you for the $10. Fan, I knew you were going to say something about communism. I know Fan's going to say something about it. BS. Communism is a federalist abomination where the government decides who can do what and the worst people get the job. Socialism is simply what benefits the most people through a shared burden. But you get what I'm saying, fan. Like I said, you can point to something in communism and it's not going to be the worst. You could probably point to something in communism that does work. When we try to define things too narrowly, that's when we get in trouble. When we start playing semantic games where we get really worked up about something because it's from something that we disagree with, right? Like I do the same thing. I say when Steven Crowder says something and I think Steven Crowder is an abusive piece of shit, but what Steven Crowder says is true, I have to acknowledge that what he said is correct, even if I think he's an abusive piece of shit that got breast implants. I mean, I might not agree with a certain political system and specifically with the results of what came from that political system in the few times that it's been tried out. But there are going to be times where somebody could point to something and go, but don't you think that that's a good idea? And I'll go, yeah, that's probably not the worst part of it. You get what I'm fan. Stop it. Thanks, fan. Thank you for the $10. And I love the pushback. You know I like the pushback. You know I love that pushback. So thank you so much. And I saw somebody say something to me here. Diane Russell. Watch the documentary Dark Money Game 2-part series. Okay, I'll check it out. Maybe you guys can tell me about it on Sunday. I'd love to hear about it on Sunday, if you guys could. That'd be dope. Let's see. All right. Let's let Jasmine finish what she's saying here.
And not be able to really afford
I guess we should go
food.
back, huh? Yeah, she's talking about what I'm talking about.
We could see the writing on the walls as we went out and we tried to educate people about what it was that they were up to. If they have it their way, this country would only be full of Elon Musk and Trump and they other billionaire friends and whoever is willing to work for them for little to nothing and have no health care and not be able to really afford food and not be able to afford a roof over their head, because we are working on reconciliation, meaning we are working on the budget. And so what we were saying in these amendments was you can't fund this type of activity. That's all we were saying, because it's already illegal. So you wouldn't need to keep doing the same law over and over. But we're like, okay, maybe we just need to take your coins away. And then maybe y'all will stop, because maybe you'll be like, well, I'm not going to get no money for doing this. So this is actually about the coins, okay? So I want to clarify, because I know some of y'all may be confused. Like, well, if it's already the law, why y'all talking about it? Okay, it is the money side of it. I just want to make sure
I think that's why most people listen.
Follow the money.
Always follow the money.
Who are you talking about,
This
Renee?
is the amazing Becca Balance.
I was ranting.
From the great state of Vermont. What do you think about what's happening so far? We got a long night ahead of us, y'all.
They
I might
are
have
willing
said
to
something
throw
that
over
maybe somebody got
all
wrong,
of our
but
rights. They are willing to throw over the freedom and the liberty of their own people in order to worship at the feet of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. They don't care about their constituents. They don't care about working people. It is about delivering more cash to people at the top. You follow the money and where it goes, and it's about kicking working people in the teeth, propping up people who don't need
100%.
the advantages they already have, and meanwhile creating a police state. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
With what we just saw in committee right there. They will not promise not to spend money to detain and deport
crazy.
American citizens.
That's fucking
This
Let me
is
be more clear.
This is all about doing whatever it is, allowing Donald Trump the latitude to do the things that he wants to do. This is my second markup for the day. My first was in oversight, and when I was there, I mean, the things that they were trying to do, they're trying to bust up unions. They are over there saying things like, you know what, we don't want federal workers to have the protections that they would normally have. And being a federal worker, we need to make them all at will so that we can fire them whenever we want to. So essentially admitting that they know that what they did when they started firing everybody, they knew it was illegal. So now they are trying to change federal worker status so that they can do this stuff lawfully.
Yeah, they want to push
I'm
through
telling
Schedule
y'all,
F.
this is absolutely insane. It is bad, bad, bad. But make sure that you don't just get on IG, listen to me. Make sure that you go and you educate somebody else, because we are in this position because of a lack of education, because we allowed ourselves to be played, or we
100%.
allowed ourselves to be riled up about things that, frankly, we ain't never had no president that was trying to decide what kids can play on the playground. The president is supposed to do things like make sure that those kids can have food in their mouths, roofs over their heads, and
Solid.
food in their mouths. I think I may have already said that. Anyway, if
Double
that
up.
doesn't you hear
Double
means I
up on
gotta go
food in the
vote.
mouth.
But I just wanted to check in with y'all. I appreciate y'all. We gonna keep fighting. The blue team got your back.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, and check out that video on the screen now.